Okay, so part of the enjoyment, I guess, of doing these restorations is it's a great way to learn, and it's always worth, I think, trying to understand how the previous restorer did what they did with a book like this, and really understand, how was this board attached, for example. So there's a bit of sort of booky archaeology that we need to do here. As we can see, this is all sort of there's a layer of sort of compacted cardboard here on this spine that's covered with leather, and it's all disintegrating. This is a process known as red rot, and I tried my best to stop it by smothering this with leather consolidant, and that's kind of helped. So the result is this board is kind of stable now, which is good. And I like that because there's actually some really beautiful leather tooling that was done here that I want to try and preserve if at all possible. But we're going to need to do a healthy reback here, obviously, because the spine is giving out. So the first thing I did was to try and understand how was this board actually attached. And it's kind of interesting. So I sort of peeked under here, and I only found two places where there was twine attached. Obviously the leather itself would have, sort of been across here as well, but there was no sort of underlying fabric or anything else that was attaching this board to the book as a whole. And so we've only got 2 points of attachment, one here and one here. What's kind of fascinating is, I'm not sure, let's see if we can zoom in a little bit here. There we go. If we look very closely, what was a bit of a shock was they don't line up. This raised band here does not line up with where this twine is here. Now I look really closely, and there's actually, and this is going to be very difficult to see, there's actually twine here buried deeper in the structure of the spine, and that is what the board was connected to here. Let's move it back right here. There's nothing at all on the board here that corresponds with this raised band, nor this one. And if we go to the top, again, it looks as though they're connected, but in actual fact, there's a bit of sort of twine here, again, buried deep in the structure, and that's what was attached to this, not this. So that's led me to the conclusion that these raised bands that are, note, above the cardboard, this is a solid piece of compacted cardboard along the spine here. These raised bands that are sitting on top of the cardboard, so they're not actually attached in any way to the text blocks, are falsies. They contribute nothing to the structure. They are there for decoration only. In other words, just peel it straight off. It's a piece of twine that was just glued straight on to a piece of underlying cardboard. So that's a good bit of intel. So, and it kind of explains why this board has come attached. What the previous bookbinder did was they did the absolute minimum possible to attach this board to the spine by using just 2 points of attachment buried deeply. They then used these false raised bands to give the impression that there were more points of attachment, which there clearly weren't. So that leaves us with a little bit of a deeper archaeology to do, because I'm quite keen to see how this was attached to here. Now, the good news is this text block is extremely robust. So underneath all of this 19th century stuff, there's probably a very, very robust structure there, which is really good news. And my approach with this is going to be the same as I've used with other, that you'll have seen hopefully in other videos, which is what I used for the restoring of this book, which is to use a really robust set of attachment points using 3 sets of twine for each raised band going into 3 holes in each place. So that's what I intend to do here, and honestly I think 2 won't do it. We're going to need to do one probably here, you know, in the place where these original raised bands are. We should use at least, for a big board like this, at least 4 points of attachment. That certainly feels about right. We may even go to 6, in effect having one here and here as well, although there are some quite nice sort of, admittedly false but nevertheless nice headbands and tailbands already in place. So that's probably where we're going to get to. So that's going to lead to us drilling holes just quite close to the edge of this board. I'm hoping this board is good structurally, because I really don't want the piece of leather that we use for rebacking to come too far this way, just because this tooling is really attractive. So I want to preserve as much of that as I can. But I guess what I'm going to do next is I'm going to just dig a little deeper underneath this cardboard and actually see how on earth this text box is held together, because I think that's going to be quite interesting.